So today on the Dirty Diggler podcast, we have Cindy, the courageous founder of Drift Protocol. Welcome, Cindy.
Hello, hello. Dirt. Yeah, great name.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Don't you give me a little bit of the
hmm
TLDR on yourself and how you got into crypto?
Yeah, got into crypto in early 17. I was living in Korea at the time, and there was this huge kimchi premium happening at the time. And essentially, kind of looked at it and was like, okay, this seems to be a pretty big opportunity. The spreads were at like 30-40% on a daily basis at the time. I was like, this can't be real. Someone has to step in and cross the spreads. And so, yeah, kind of just got into crypto by taking little bets here and there. We call it arbitrage these days. From there, spun out a small trading arm, ran it to 20-30 mil trading shop, and ran that up until 2021. We were one of the first BitMEX traders and first on-chain, as well as OTC options traders as well at the time. So yeah, ran that for a couple of years, and then in early 21, she got in touch with the Solana team, and they were looking for a team to essentially build derivatives on chain. We saw a huge opportunity in we saw a huge inefficiency in the ETH markets for options and derivatives. And then we looked at Solana's technology and was like, okay, this is an interesting proposition, an actually fast performant decentralized blockchain. Is there something here that could be built? We sort of like looked at the market landscape and realized that no one was actually looking at perps at the time. So yeah, because we had been trading perps for so long, decided to lean into the opportunity and found Drift. So yeah, long story short, today we're the largest Solana perp dex. 2 years later, been through ups and downs of Solana, and yeah, just been having a great time scaling this protocol.
That's that's awesome. I was unaware you were such an OG in the space, especially with the kimchi premium, which makes me ask the question, what were you doing before that kind of put you on to even knowing it existed?
I was doing some venture stuff here and there. I'm in Shanghai and Seoul. And then prior to that was just studying like CS and finance in uni. So yeah, kind of makes sense since crypto is the intersection of computer science and finance.
Absolutely. And it looks like you're building in the right place. So you've hopped around the globe. You've been in Malaysia, South
Mhm.
Korea, Shanghai, Singapore, and I kind of want to know like about your upbringing. What got you into
Mhm.
the entrepreneurial spirit? Like, have you kind of always known that you had found something of your own?
Yeah, great question. I actually wanted to be in politics when I was a kid,
Hmm.
because I grew up in Malaysia, and there's a pretty kind of entrenched political system that we're not going to go into today that kind of prevents anyone who's non-native Malay, non-male to rank up in the system. And I always thought that was a huge injustice and wanted to step in and change that myself. But that was a very naive very naive and idealistic dream. But yeah, always kind of wanted to be in a position where could make a big impact in the space in the world. And so yeah, always kind of had that like vision growing up. My family was also entrepreneurial, so I think that's kind of where it rubbed off on me. And as a student, also went to like some pretty experimental schools. When I was in uni, actually joined a like venture-backed traveling traveling university called Minerva.
Oh,
So yeah,
sweet.
that was an interesting choice. A lot of it was it's like San Francisco based. The vision was kind of to reinvent what higher education looks like. So yeah, kind of always been in the let's revamp a space that's clearly not working and try something new and then see if it works. So yeah, I think that's always kind of been an interest of mine.
That's awesome. Sounds like with the upbringing, where you are now is a culmination of a lot of factors and a long time coming. And I'm curious because now you're the founder, you got lax in political interests, you've been doing entrepreneurial stuff. I want to know, where do you see yourself growing with Drift? Is there a
Mm.
hat that you like to wear the most, whether it's managerial, whether it's product base, is it the tech base? How do you see that going into the future over the next couple of years?
Yeah, I would say that my role was in product was probably the most critical earlier on. Today we have a very mature product team that is sort of like very yeah, well built. We have about 10 people total on the product side. That's led by our head of product and CTO. And yeah, honestly, product functions like a well-oiled machine, to the point where initially when we were a team of four, I was doing the designs and I do not have a design background. So it was a very scrappy time. But as we progressed, found myself less and less in a product role, more kind of just directing strategy, BD, and finding myself more useful in the distribution side, where I spent a lot
Hmm.
of my time talking to traders, getting feedback. I spent a lot of my time talking to people who aren't necessarily in the Solana ecosystem, to kind of talk about, what's the deal with integrating on Solana, what what can you benefit from trading on a DEX versus continuing to trade on Binance. So yeah, I think as the protocol decentralizes from here, I do see a lot of my role becoming more on the continuing to be on the distribution marketing side. I think a big part of what DEXs kind of fail to appreciate as well is that large distribution channel. So yeah, I spend a lot of my energies there.
Sweet. You seem the right person for the right job in that front. I like that. I like what I'm hearing. Okay, let's move a little bit more into drift. If you're a Solana enjoyer, you know what drift is.
Hmm.
It's superb. It does spot well. It does perp well. It has its own money market. But what do people not know about drift? Does it have feelings? Does it get hurt when people talk down on it? Give me something people don't know.
Yeah, I think what people don't know is probably how the drift team operates. We have 20
Mm.
people globally, pretty spread out all over the world, just like any decentralized team. Fully remote. We do a lot of daily syncs. We're real fun people, and generally actually enjoy each other's company. I would say one of our hiring policies is to never hire assholes. So everyone in the team actually really nice, really kind, and genuine people who work really hard. So yeah, I would say that the team culture is very nice to be around.
Nice. Well, as a tractor, I don't have an asshole. So when you're hiring, you just let me know.
Yeah, I just feel free to DM your other.
That's good. That's good. All right. What's your favorite part of the protocol? Do you have a
My
favorite part of
favorite.
the protocol? How about that?
Yeah, and there's a lot of parts of the protocol that sometimes I even struggle to like, talk about it because it's just like, okay, yeah, we're a perp, but we're also like all these other things. Actually, my favorite part is the perps trading for sure. Number one, because that's what brings the revenue to the protocol, and that's what brings the users to the protocol. But what I also like about it is all these other features, sort of the reason that people stay. So people come
Hmm.
in because they see perps, they see big numbers, but then they stay because they realize we have a cross collateral market where you can deposit, Jito Sol, M Sol, wrapped ETH, and then use that as collateral for trading. Or they realize, hey, I can actually park some of my stables into the insurance fund, secure part of the network, and also earn like 20% yield. So yeah, I think it's an all-in-one platform. You barely have to switch tabs in order to get what you need done in crypto.
Yeah, good answer. I was thinking you might say perps, but then I wasn't sure why, and the why matches. Okay. Bef-
Yeah.
Before we jump too far in, down memory lane, and I want to
Hmm.
discuss the V1 failure with Luna, but I don't
Hmm.
want so much to talk about like the specific event. I want to know what you had to go through. I want to know what it was like bringing Drift back from essentially the ground all the way to where it is now, to literally being the top perp dex in Solana. So give that as much energy as you want. I'm very interested to know what founders go through during these stages, and the feeling of success on the other side.
Yeah, long way to go. But I think, we launched to last year, sort of at the bottom of the market, right? Like right when FTX collapsed. And right before that, we had the 3AC incident, we had the Luna collapse that obviously didn't bode well for us at the time. We had to be sunset for a few months, and we weren't live for, as long as 2, 3, 4 months as we were building up V2. But during the stage where we were building out V2, that was probably the most wired I had seen the team and the most wired that we had been. Just in terms of the diligence on the risk side, thinking about what we needed to do to, foolproof the system from anything like this happening again, whether an asset going to infinity or zero, that shouldn't matter, right? We see V1 as a whole as an early experiment that ultimately, due to what happened with Luna, had to be sunset. But V2, in all senses, I would say much more superior to what we brought into the world with V1. Just a couple of examples. One, we have a robust P&L settlement mechanism that essentially would have prevented also what happened with Mango and Avi by ensuring that there's always corresponding losses in a pool before users are able to withdraw their profits. So what this means is that you can't have a single person, generate like $10 million in unrealized P&L in an illiquid market and close that position.
Mm.
And there's been a lot of thought being placed into these mechanisms.
So you're saying like the P&L is created, it's in a perp, but it has to actually exist in a P&L pool for anybody to take from it. It can't just take from a
Exactly.
generalized pool where people's funds are.
Exactly. So what I mean by that is that there always has to be a corresponding loss in the system for
Hmm.
people to be able to withdraw. And a lot
Hmm.
of like failures of leverage systems do not account for this because they sort of believe that the level of leverage is the same on both sides. Imagine if both people have the same trade, but one person has $10 in collateral and the other person has 100. The person with 10 now owes the person with 100 $100, right? Well, the person with $10 should have been stopped out the moment their like $10 loss was realized. So there's a lot of like nuances there, but yeah, I think a lot of the design takes into account these like factors and typical failures in leverage systems.
That's awesome. I know I was speaking with Barrett from Cypher the other day, and we kind of had a similar
Mhm.
conversation about what it was like for them coming back after the recent exploit. And while that's been a lot more recent, he said like it
Yeah.
does something to your team. It makes everybody so
Yeah.
much more solid, and you have to face the noise, and a lot of protocols that are in graveyard don't come back from this. But you guys are sort
Yeah.
of like you're proof in the pudding. You put your head down, you put the work in, and you make serious changes, like your guys' liquidity trifecta that we'll talk about next. And then this
Mm-hmm.
is the reward you get out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Good job.
but honestly speaking, especially like towards the launch of TX, everything, all the hate towards Solana earlier this year, definitely
Mm-hmm.
wasn't easy to go through. So yeah, we're sort of like we're sitting in a good place now, but it definitely took the team a lot of time and energy to sort of like get there. And yeah, motivation wasn't always like peak. Definitely has had its highs and lows. So but yeah, like you said, I think the major thing is that it has made us a lot more cognizant of risks in the system.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the critical lesson throughout all of this is that DeFi, to be taken seriously, needs to seriously consider risks on an institutional level. Otherwise, it can never scale to CeFi scale.
It puts you guys in a very unique position because of what you've been through. You're not taking it for granted. Where maybe
Mm,
if it was flipped 180 degrees and there was no issues in the past, you'd be sitting where you're sitting, and you'd be counting your lucky stars, saying, "Wow, I can't believe we've done it." And whereas now on the other side, you're like, "Well, let's just not get hasty. Let's keep the focus as we push this to really push back to the bull market and push back actual daily active users and real numbers." So good
yeah,
job.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I brought it up already. Let's talk about the liquidity trifecta a bit. The Lightspeed podcast guys, you actually really broke it down really well. And I kind of want to know a little bit more about how the idea came into fruition. you've got your three types,
Mm.
you've got your virtual AMM, your order book, and your just in time. And the way that I understand is they actually all sort of compete to fill at the same time. Where did the inspiration for this come from? How did you guys get there? It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple of things. So V1 was a pure virtual AMM in the backend. And we quickly realized that for a perpetual exchange to scale, you need to be able to match makers against takers in an order book fashion. It's sort of like the don't try to reinvent the wheel thing. Just add to it. Where we saw that AMMs were working, but they also needed the support of order books in order to be like fully institutional. So we looked at, okay, what if the liquidity from order books that are specific and enable traders to take on specific price and specify each part of their trade, can we combine it with a general liquidity that's provided by a virtual AMM that can also be guaranteed at each price point regardless of whether market makers are providing liquidity or not? Because as an on-chain dex, you can't always rely on market makers to be present. I think that's sort of like the mantra. So can we get the benefits of an order book while still having the
Hmm.
guaranteed liquidity of an AMM? So that was the design philosophy we came in with, and where the
It's
just-in-time
interesting.
liquidity came in was inspired by essentially payment for order flow that was pioneered by Robinhood, where they sort of package orders
Hmm.
and allow market makers to take on the positions before hitting the actual order books. The inspiration behind just-in-time liquidity is it's a Dutch auction that gets opened every time a person wants to open a market order. And what it enables is that market makers can see this order before it hits the order book and decide to fill it and give slight price improvement to the user. And what this allows is that number one, market makers kind of get to see the flow before it hits the books. So it's good from an order flow perspective. And for the user, they can get better fills and price improvement without relying on book liquidity. So yeah, all this together kind of came together because we realized that if you want an on-chain order book to work, you can't have it work as a pure order book because there's a lot of trade-offs of being on-chain, including some computational delays at times. That's inevitable, but in order to compensate for that, you need more guaranteed liquidity in the system.
That is very interesting. I can tell that you are well versed on the subject. Do you know if any other like because I know personally that the Solana perps that are also in the space don't offer this kind of trifecta. Do you know if any other
Mhm.
dexes in the space do, like whether it's on Cosmos or Ethereum?
I don't think so at the moment. I think there are a couple of like maybe spot ones that use a combination of MMs and order books, but yeah, I don't think I'm familiar with any other proof decks doing this.
That's very cool. Is it common knowledge or can be found in any analytics places which of those three in the trifecta get the most volume?
Yeah, generally between the AMM and the order book, those fill a large majority. It kind of depends on how much liquidity there is in the order book, but right now DLP, which is the liquidity on the AMM side, has about 15 mil in liquidity. The order
Mm.
book sort of comes in and out depending on the day. But yeah, I would say those two fill the most. JIT actually fills the lowest amount of order. And in our thesis there is that it actually takes probably the most work to set up a JIT bot and computational power. So it hasn't been as widely adopted as the order book and the AMM.
Interesting. Good to know. All right, let's jump in a little bit of the UI UX. I will
Mhm.
commend you. It is pretty impeccable. Whenever I tell people to come to Solana and I give them kind of my playbook for places to go and what to do, Drift is always on there, and it always says comes back like this is the closest you can get to a sex on chain. And I want to know like once you get that moniker, and I know it's not the first time you've heard it, where does it go
Mhm.
from there? How do you keep pushing it? Can you keep
Yeah.
pushing it from a UI UX? Does the focus
Yeah.
change? What do you guys talk about when you have the meetings about it?
Yeah, great question. And that's actually the topic of a presentation at Breakpoint. So
Mm.
that the topic is actually how do we scale to CFI level from where we are now. Obviously, like you said, we're in a good position within the Solana ecosystem. Where in terms of a like for DeFi basis, we're doing really well. But at the end of the day, CeFi is still doing 100, 200 times more volume than DeFi at the moment. And for us to really make an impact, we need to start getting closer to eating more of CeFi's lunch versus staying where we are now. So there's a lot of things that from a UI perspective we need to do to continue to get there. And that's a I think maybe you've struggled with this before, but auto confirm is a big one. So if you notice, you still have to like open your wallet, approve transactions, and then the yeah, like you need that instant gratification of just your orders like hitting instantly. So that's one of the things we've been working with Phantom on to
Mm.
reduce the time it takes to confirm a user's order on chain. And now auto confirm is actually live on Drift. You can approve, your order ahead of time, and then every time you're signing a Drift order, you don't have to press approve anymore, at least for a specified period of time. Yeah. And then from there, it's really looking at more on the custody side. You'll probably notice that there's recently been a lot of kind of dexes that have popped up saying that they're a hybrid sex dex. They have like cold storage custody type situation. We're working with squads on Solana
Mm.
to build a more institutional grade way to log in and custody your funds without having your hot wallet be the main signer and the main holder of the funds, because once you lose that, it's over, right? So what we've been building with them is like, what if you could have your funds sitting on a funding wallet, and then you delegate access, trading access to that wallet with a delegate account structure on Drift. That's a hot wallet. You can approve transactions with that, but your funds are actually sitting in a multi-sig that is secured by multiple recovery mechanisms. So, yeah, those things help us get to the next level in terms of making sure that users can know that even if they lose their private keys, they have methods of recovering their capital. And that is also a fundamental building block in having people with larger balance sheets come into Drift, and funds with much larger trading capital than what we see on DeFi today.
That's super cool. I really like the sound of that a lot. And it kind of lends out, like you said, you have an institutional trading firm, you got the money in the bank, and then you give your three traders access, and they've all got keys so they can access different parts of the liquidity and deploy whatever strategies they want, whether they're automatic or they're manual. Man, I gotta talk to the squads guys.
Yeah, and then on the tech side, there's always stuff to do. I would say the speed of confirmation is still not at the place that we want it to be, and we can get even faster with confirmations. So I've been working on how we can reduce the amount of time it takes to ping the RPC by maybe encoding some specific functions into an RPC, yada yada. But yeah, basically we spend a lot of time just like optimizing the user experience. Like how can we make market orders happen like a snap? You don't have to even wait 2 3 seconds. So I think those things make a huge impact in the short and long run. And reliability during times where the market is pumping like crazy is also like key, because these are the times that traders want to get in and out of positions the most.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know expanding on the product offering, you guys were talking about using in a future being able to use Drift as kind of this backend, and that
Mm.
you would promote protocols to come and to build. And I'm kind of just curious, like, what's your dream front ends for it?
Yeah.
Is it gamification in games? Is it socialized trading? Like, do you guys kind of kick around? Well, maybe we should sponsor a hackathon and promote people to build on top, stuff like that.
We've actually like thought about this idea internally where you have like a leverage lending front end that instead of like providing more leverage on the main smart contracts, which you want to keep pretty low risk. If let's say you wanted to have 1,000x leverage on chain, You could actually make that happen with a separate front end, where we have a leveraged lender and a borrower, and that leveraged lender is essentially willing to lend you that, doesn't extend you that leverage, but it becomes more like a P2P, like leverage lending system, that enables degens to get like the highest amount of leverage possible. So yeah, those are the kind of things that we think will drive more attention and more usage of the protocol, because yeah, those are like the wacky ideas that we're sort of thinking about. There's been other like talks as well of like users building like sports betting on top of our drift smart contracts using custom
Hmm.
oracles. Yeah, gamification is obviously a huge one. If you could like integrate a drift market within a game and have people like trade in the corner of a massive multiplayer game, that would be really cool. But yeah, I
That would be
mean,
interesting.
lots of places that we think that this is applicable.
That's sweet. That leads perfectly into another question too. I'm listening to you talk about the ideas you guys are thinking and what you want to see built, and it kind of makes me think of a question around competition. And I've been having this
Yeah.
conversation with Barrett, and I had this conversation with Tristan because, like, brass tacks are is Drift has the biggest slice of the pie. But even just hearing what
Hmm.
you were talking about, you're talking about growing the pie. You're talking about attracting new
Hmm.
kinds of users to this space, and I want to see, is that true? Is that exactly how you guys view competition? It's not even about the competition; it's about user acquisition.
Yeah, I would say the daily active users on chains today are not really high enough for us to like focus on, like obliterating the competition, because that's honestly not a major focus of ours. It's like, okay, like a net new user to the Solana ecosystem is actually beneficial for everyone. A net new user into DeFi is better for crypto as a whole, and a net
Mm.
new buyer of anything or a minter of stablecoin is good enough for the space, right? And I guess for us, if our goal is to get a share of the centralized exchange market, and every user we bring in from the centralized exchange market is a win for us, and every user we convert. So I would say we're more competing with the giants here, rather
Okay.
than the dexes, because I would say like the dexes are typically fighting for the same purpose. We don't want to see more centralization within derivatives. We want to fight for more transparency, fairness for users. So yeah, I would say that I wouldn't see it as competition necessarily.
I love that. I've talked to you all now in the last week, and everybody's answers have been the same. And whether that's just good PR, I don't think it is. I actually believe you guys, because it's like it's good to know that the Solana ecosystem just continues to rally together, and I keep having these same conversations, and that's why another reason why I'm so excited about Breakpoint is to meet these teams, and everybody's just like unified for Solana. Let's go. Let's onboard the masses.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Nice. Okay. I got a little bit of a tough question for you, although you might have an easy
Hmm.
answer for it. You guys did a seed round back in 2021, 3.8
Hmm.
million, and it's been 2 years. What's your guys' runway like, if you can talk about it? Has the trading fees that you already collected started to generate revenue above expenses? Can you tell me anything about that sort of picture?
Yeah. So there is an announcement that will be coming out at Breakpoint. We can save it
Hmm.
for there.
Okay.
And yeah,
Okay.
in terms of protocol fees, we're very close to hitting the 1 mil in revenue mark, since yeah the last couple of months of operations for V2. So yeah, that's been pretty great to see, and we're sort of exponentially growing in the revenue side. So yeah, I like that part a lot of the protocol, because I think it's actually like a sustainable ecosystem that could flourish on its own without relying on like external incentives.
Awesome. I did a lot of research in the last year, and I started out doing a lot of perp dexes in Arbitrum space and Ethereum space, and a
Hmm.
lot of times there was token terminal. I'm not sure if you're familiar with, and it was
Yep.
just so often you don't get good access to good information, and it makes it super difficult to understand where a protocol is. And when I was listening to you and Chris talk about how much you value fee capture and how much you think it should be the switch should be turned on, hearing you guys talk about it makes you think, well, this is good. This is finally a protocol that's taking it seriously. It's aiming to be around for the foreseeable future.
Mm-mm. Yeah, definitely. I think that that's been a key driver for us.
Good. All right. What can you tell me about a hypothetical token? Can you tell me anything about utility, how you're seeing value accrual around the token versus the protocol? I'm sure a lot of it's under wraps. Anything you can tell
Hmm.
there?
Yeah, I mean, for legal reasons, I can't really
Nice.
say too much. But I will say though that like one kind of model that we've really liked is kind of risk sharing with token holders. I think ultimately, as much as token if token holders are to actually capture upside from owning part of the protocol, they should also take the risk of what happens within the protocol. We think that that's the only like user and stakeholder aligned system that could work, functioning
Mhm.
very similar to like stakers in an insurance fund, for instance. But yeah, that's I think that that's like one nugget that we really like about it.
Okay, that's fair. I can respect that. I can respect the law. Okay. About daily active users, I know that they're low and they're improving all the time. Can you tell me a little bit more when it comes to users on your platform? Are you seeing them predominantly perp users? Are they predominantly spot users? Are they borrowers and lenders? Are they investing in the insurance? Do you have an insight to where they're coming the most?
Yeah, a large majority. So we have like anywhere between 500 to 1,000 data active users. Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the actions, it's a large majority is perp trading. Insurance fund staker is kind of like we wouldn't really count as an active user because they're just depositing into the vault. Obviously, you look at like unique key signing. There's a lot more because they're not like actively using the UI. They're more like just swapping the backend or staking into something. But yeah, I would say like large majorities come for the trading.
Okay. Okay. All right. I do have one kind of cheeky question. And I don't think it's a
Hmm.
protocol that's very well known. What can you tell me about circuit trading? Is it your
Mm,
guys' own on chain market maker slash basis trader? What can we know?
yeah, it sort of just came out of stealth recently. Drift incubated this project because we found out that I guess post FTX, it was really difficult to get any sort of market maker on board. So
Hmm.
we decided to kind of take matters into our own hands and provide liquidity where we could. So we spun out a trading a market making desk that was able to quote on the drift order books. And a couple of months into running it as an independent entity, we realized that, hey, maybe there's actually a product here where users can stake into vaults that are run by market makers essentially. Because prior to this, there wasn't really a way that you could get exposure to any market making strategy on chain without exposing your funds to default risk essentially through loans. So we're like, okay, can we build something that gives users and retails access to these type of strategies while still having their funds like sit in an exchange in a smart contracts, right? So yeah, that's kind of where Circuit came to life.
Hmm.
We saw that there was a big need for this, and then we launched a private beta of these market maker vaults. We're currently, I guess, the Circuit team is running the and operating the vaults right now, but we do see a future where market makers who are sort of more trusted will run separate vaults as well. And yeah, I
Hmm.
think that's been a really fun incubator project to work on.
So it's kind of like or will be sort of a money market vault marketplace, if you will. If you can manage to onboard more market makers and you'll be able to see like their historical APY over time, and then you could kind
Yeah,
of pick and choose based on strategies.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. That's straightforward. There anything that you want to say more about Drift, where they can find you, stuff like that, things you're excited about?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're on Twitter, we're in Discord. Twitter is just Drift Protocol. I'm very, very active there as well as in Discord. So, if you have any questions on trading or just want to share some trading alpha, yeah, head over to our Discord. It's a great place, some good vibes. And yeah, I guess last words is that we actually just launched Drift Draw last week. Drift draw is a new incentive like mechanism where we take a percentage of the platform fees, direct it into a pool that's perpetually growing, and traders get a chance to win a slice of this pool based on how much trading volume they're doing. So the more trading volume
Hmm.
they're doing, the higher the chance they get to win this jackpot, if you will. Right now it's sitting at about 25K,
Oh
and
shit.
yeah, you can pretty much like we've actually seen trading volumes increase a lot, like post the week that we launched
Hmm.
it, pretty much like 2-3x from there. Obviously, the market was moving well as well, but I think there's like actual demand for these type of more like randomized like prizes and games on chain. We've even seen users say like, "Oh my god, I've like over traded just to get more tickets to the prize pool." Yeah.
That's a perfect iteration of, like you guys like to say, with sustainable rewards. People are actually having to earn their chance to win it, not just be given it as a gift for showing up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so you're going to be speaking at Breakpoint on Tuesday at 11:55, discussing the
Yes.
Sex Dex experience. Are you excited?
I am. We actually put a lot of work into the presentation, so I'm very excited to talk about it. Yeah, it talks about a lot of our plans coming up, some announcements, and yeah, just also chatting through the question of how we actually got to where we are today. So, I mean, yeah, we covered a lot of that today as well.
Love it. Okay. I guess, as with how I like to close the podcast, I want to know, what is the one thing that helped keeps you sane during the bear market as a founder, whether it's going outside and touching grass or
Yeah, I think going outside definitely helps. Started training for a half marathon that's coming up in a
ah,
couple of weeks. So yeah, that's been really nice just to get some fresh air, like push my body, workout. I think so many people just kind of like forget to take care of themselves. I think it's been like a good like bear market to to start like working out in. Yeah, yeah. Really like the outdoors. Hiking is great.
love it. Taking care of oneself is the new meta. I like that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming on the Dirty Diggler podcast. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.